Welcome to the complete animation of Miss Kittey from Little Dogs on the Prairie. And yes, her name is Kittey, not Kittey, it's Kittey. And she speaks with a Southern Belle accent. Like, without watching this show, you never would have guessed. And I think that this show is actually worth a watch. It is low budget. Any copy that you can find for free online has terrible interlacing. Like, holy cow. I am so glad that we have evolved as a society past interlacing. Because interlacing does not play well with modern formats. It's like, whenever you look at resolutions, if you ever see the letter I, where there should be a P, you know that there is trouble if you ever want to watch it on modern hardware. Because interlacing is awful. You know, there's technical reasons why it existed before, but I really wish that it never did, because it just makes things harder now that we have, proper media formats that are all progressively show one frame after another and not try to interlace. Oh my goodness, I hate interlacing so much. And I don't know how to fix it. Apparently, like, I try all the things, there's like de-interlacing in Handbrake, there's de-interlacing in VLC. None of it seems to work for me. If there is somebody who can just be like, hey, here's how to de-interlace, and it works every time. Doesn't matter what the original file looks like, you'll get some perfect de-interlacing. That'd be great. But as for the show itself, Little Dogs on the Prairie has nothing to do with Little House on the Prairie. It's like the only reason that the show has the title Little Dogs on the Prairie is because of the famous series of books, the most famous of which is Little House on the Prairie. Although, it's really weird that movie, not that book out of the series, is the most well known, because it's like smack dab in the middle of the entire story. It starts with Little House in the Big Woods. That was the story I remember the most, and that's the one that stuck to me. But no, Little House on the Prairie is the big one. And what do they do with Little Dogs on the Prairie? They have most of the characters being prairie dogs, but they have very inconsistent designs. Not as inconsistent as something like that one Noah's Ark movie, but still pretty inconsistent designs, all things considered. And Miss Kittey is like the odd one out. There's no other character that looks quite like her. And she is surprisingly a very major character. And her whole shtick is that she is the new barber in town. And there's like 2 episodes that basically focus on her. The first one is her coming to town and being the barber. And then the second one is this one where this little boy character has a crush on her. And it is a weird episode where it's like a little kid crushing on a grown woman. But I guess they kind of handled it well, where once she found out that that's how he felt about her, she was like, listen, kid, that just isn't gonna work. But talking about the show as a whole, on the one hand, it's actually pretty well written. they, especially the dialogue, there are so many characters, especially like the the old townsmen characters who actually like legitimately are pretty well written and especially well voice acted. Like there is some pretty competent voice acting in here, and I don't think any of the voice actors are like big names. Um, but yeah, it's pretty good, and the writing is surprisingly witty a bunch of the time. Like there's this one gag where because everybody's staring at themselves in the mirror because of how much they like their haircuts, nobody in town is out and about. And so there's a town doctor who comes and he tries to use the AED kit, whatever. Like, do like the, start the heart thing on the town and it doesn't work. And so he says, "I'm calling it This Town is Dead." And it's like, that's a pretty good joke, especially the way that they played it. And like I guess the big elephant in the room for this series is that it is a quote unquote Christian series. But it does the worst job at being a Christian series that I think I've ever seen. There's like Veggie Tales. I've heard that there's been like a bazillion different, versions of the Veggie Tales, and there's been like multiple series that have come and gone. But the only one I ever watched was like the original run. I remember we had all the VHS tapes and they were, green because vegetables. And like those are legitimately, Christian. That's a legitimately Christian show. It had plenty of fun and silliness as well, but like you watching is like, oh, so this is a Christian show because it actually tells, Bible stories. Although it's all from the Old Testament. That's something that did make me wonder. Maybe they've done New Testament stuff later, New Testament stories later, but like all of these stories that they reenact from the ones I remember, they were all from the Old Testament. And it also, like, they also only say, like, God wants you to do this, God wants you to do that. They never actually, like, say the name Jesus Christ. And it's like, can you really be Christian if you don't talk about Christ? It's kind of weird. And somebody, I think, once said something like maybe they did it because they wanted to also appeal to those other faiths that don't observe the New Testament but do observe the events in the Old Testament. I don't know. But Little Dogs on the Prairie, like, if it basically the way that it is, quote unquote, a Christian series is that at the very beginning of an episode and the very end of an episode, they shoehorn in something from the narrator who usually says something from the book of Psalms or Proverbs. And it's like, those are the sections of the Old Testament that have the least to do with anything. It's like, if you want to build faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and, save your soul, as it were, just going through some random, like, single verses in Psalms or Proverbs isn't gonna do it. And they do the most surface level little, like, things. Like, you can basically tell that whoever wanted this to be a quote unquote Christian cartoon didn't really have their heart and soul in it. They just wanted to make a fun cartoon with a silly setting and some fun characters. And they just sort of slapped some vaguely, technically Christian stuff on the front and end of episodes. And then that was it. That was everything. The animation quality in this series, it's a mixed bag. Like, there are some scenes where it's like, oh, that is actually some really decent character animation. That is some really decent facial animation. And then there are some scenes where it's like, is that even on model? It doesn't look on model. And I wish that I had a better source for this, but like, when I looked it up, there is a DVD release of this series, but all the DVDs I could find were like used copies and cost way too much. It'd be like maybe $10 per DVD would be all right, a decent price, but not like $40. And I don't care about this series enough to like look and try to find, deals. Yeah, that is the thing. Like, in this day and age of everything going to streaming, and like obscure shows like this, it is so hard to get reliable, good video copies of it. And a show like this, it isn't even on a streaming platform. It's like, look around. Look at Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, whatever. Little Dogs on the Prairie isn't on it. Like, I really don't look forward to the future that we're heading into with media. Which is why I am trying to get physical copies of not everything, but a lot of stuff. Like, I could probably fork out the dough for a real DVD of Little Dogs on the Prairie, and who knows, maybe the official DVD doesn't have the interlacing issues. But if it doesn't, it makes me wonder, how did the interlacing issues get there on the YouTube versions that I watched and downloaded in order to get the footage for this complete animation? I'm pretty sure that they just ripped the DVDs themselves and that's how it looks. And if that's the case, then the DVD just has the interlacing issues. It really shouldn't, but it probably does. But like, what's the end goal with streaming? What do these streaming platforms want to do? Like, yeah, they want everything to be, convenient, where it's just like, oh, I want to watch something, I turn on the streaming platform, oh, that looks good, I will watch it. But that doesn't do anything for, preserving old stuff. That doesn't do anything to make sure that things are always available. I follow a whole bunch of like gaming channels, and they all talk about how, digital distribution hurts video games, where it's like, oh, this game, you could only buy it digitally, and now that they don't sell it anymore digitally, and the Wii virtual console is offline, there's no way to play it anymore. Like, you can't even download what you bought already. Basically, they're just making the whole case that the industry at large is making is that you need a way, whatever that way may be, to get all of your content DRM free so you can back it up yourself. And if you didn't do that, the only way for you to get your content back again is to do it another way. And I can't talk about those other ways because if you've been following other like news in YouTube in general, it's like YouTube is flagging anybody who like mentions getting content any way they can as harmful. yeah, there's a whole discussion about that, but I'm not going to get into here. But there just needs to be a way to let there. I wish there was an easier way for all the animated content to be so easily available for anybody who wants to find it. But it just so happens that like there's like a bazillion shows that are basically impossible to find, legally. And so what recourse do you have? You have to go through shady sites. You have to learn how to do it. You have to hope that maybe something was put on YouTube and it's so old and forgotten that not even the parent company has uploaded it, so like there's no chance of it getting copyright stricken. You have to maybe hope that something was uploaded to the Internet Archive. It is just so hard to actually get stuff in this day of streaming. And I get it. It is expensive. It is hard to make a business case for starting up an entire disc run for something that might not even sell through one run of the stuff. So there's no easy answer. Except for maybe just making it so that it's easier to distribute stuff that is forgotten and abandoned. It's like there's no way that the people who made Little Dogs on the Prairie would have expected that all the way in the year 2025 this show would still be raking in royalties or whatever. But I am glad that at least this show was able to be archived in one way or another on YouTube. It would be nice if it wasn't so ridden with interlacing artifacts, but at least it's there. Thanks for watching.